All right, everybody, welcome to Texas REIAs. Super excited to have you guys all here with us tonight. I'm Shenoah Grove. I'm the president of Texas REIAs. Excited to have all of you guys here to talk about what's going on in the real estate market, share with you some tribal knowledge, some tips of the week, as well as share with you what's going on with the market update. So we have all of the March data, as we should, since it's almost towards the end of April. And I'm actually excited about how the April data is going to look as well, judging based on what we saw for the pending sales at the end of March. But I'm curious to know what you guys are working on in your business. So Patricia said she's working with a buyer, trying to get a buyer a property, get it while the interest rates are still, they've gone up since, I never thought that a bank failure would drop interest rates, but there was a nice window over there where the rates went down over a half point. So if you got in then that's fantastic. If not, then the rates are still not terrible. It depends on what your perspective is. So for me, I've been investing since 2003, so when I first started investing, interest rates were actually higher than what they are today. And guess what? You can still be a real estate investor when interest rates are high. Now, many of our buyers have kind of decided to opt out because they got a little spoiled, and I kind of call a lot of the buyers that got spoiled like kids on a playground. What does a kid do on a playground when someone upsets them? What do? They walk away. They take their ball, and they say, I'm going home, right? What have buyers done in this market? They've walked away. They've taken their ball. In this case, their ball is a 20% down payment, and they've walked away to go and rent a property for a year, and then they say, I'll come back when interest rates are lower. And what's happened in that meantime is they walked away. Interest rates actually went higher. So, but we're in the spring selling season. We're seeing some strong numbers considering the fact that we've doubled interest rates in less than a year. But we are still seeing a little bit of reluctancy on buyers' parts, or saw just so much fervor as we were beginning 2022. That's starting obviously to go away, but it's still a relatively good market. Many of the associations of realtors are comparing this market to sort of a normal market after 2019. So I would say this is our first normal market since then. And if you compare it to 2019, the sales prices are still up, the sales volumes are still up. If you just kind of wipe from your memory, just have a little amnesia of what happened over the last prior few years. So, but none of us want to wipe that from our memory because it was some of the best years that we've had as real estate investors. I'm curious, how many of you guys own rental property in here? How many rental property owners? How has your year been over the last couple of years? Good. From what perspective?
Good renters.
Good renters. What else?
Prices going up.
Rent prices going up. Yeah. What else? More applicants when your house comes up for lease. Did any of you guys experience that? Probably in some cases better quality renters, just because so many folks have opted out of buying. Many of those would-be buyers are now renters. Many of the would-be sellers are now also what? Landlords, because they don't want to sell in this market, and or those interest rates are so low that they have a great opportunity to be able to cash flow on those properties that they have. I know we got some landlords in here. Any accidental landlords, meaning wasn't really planning on keeping it, but I decided to keep it. Was that you?
This is our first one, and we were meant to flip it, but it just...
Can I ask you guys to come over towards that microphone there? And I might ask you to just tap the microphone just to make sure. Will you guys give them a round of applause because they look super shy? Yeah? All right. So you may have to tap. Is it on? Will you turn it on? There's just a little button you're just going to click up on the other side. All right. So introduce yourselves if you don't mind.
I'm Jamila Oko. I'm Candle Bussey.
Okay, awesome. Well, good to have you guys. I'm trying to get you up on the screen. I'm having a little bit of trouble with that.
Not necessary.
But that's okay. That's okay.
It's not necessary.
That's okay. It's okay. Well, I think, but go ahead and tell us a little bit about how you guys became maybe accidental landlords and what that looks like.
Well, we just kind of set out to flip
Okay.
a home, and we purchased our first one in February, hired a great GC.
February 2023?
Correct.
Okay.
And he passed away in the middle of our project.
Oh, wow.
So we were pretty hands-off, just investors at this point. No longer just investors now.
Okay.
But because of that, it has put us in a situation where we're probably going to have to just keep the home for a little bit.
You say put us in a situation, meaning it's going to cost you more to finish it than it would have. Okay, yeah. So
Absolutely.
you're maybe underwater on the flip, but you're still in a
Not
good position for.
horrifically, but I
You're
just
still in a
feel
good
like-
position for a rental, and you want to just hold it to watch the values go up. And okay.
I think so.
So I will tell you, after doing this for 20 years, there is not going to be many things that will break your heart more than fully renovating a property and putting a renter in that does not take care of it. So I'm not one of those folks personally that wants to, and I know there are people out there who will like drive by where they're living today and do like a house visit where they're living today. I don't have that time availability, but for you, if your house is this beautiful, perfect place, I would do a site visit of where they're living now just to make sure that when you get it back in a year or 2 years, that you're not now in a process of trying to fix what they may have hurt, because that's what I've found is really heartbreaking. It's like, for me, it's either going to stay as a rental and I'm not going to go back and look at it again, or it's going to be flipped and I'm not going to worry about what the new owners are going to do. So just a thought. Make sure you get some great tenants in there.
Okay. We'll keep an eye.
And then one thing I will love about this story is the fact that what kind of taxes were you going to pay on it versus what kind of taxes are you going to pay now when you finally sell it?
Right.
Yeah, so holding it for a year, you get the capital gains tax rate as opposed to the income tax rate. So that'll bump up your income or your profit, your take home, right?
Correct.
After taxes by maybe 15%, which might account for some of the 15% extra that it may have cost you to be able to finish the project now.
Right.
So let me ask you, what's next for you guys after this project?
I don't know why, but we're going to do it again. So we'll see.
Well,
I think
it sounds like you got some confidence after you guys finished the project after. So
I think we're going to start GCing our smaller projects,
Okay.
and then look for another person.
So I have a rule for GCing. So it's the rule of 5. If you have to bring in fewer than 5 trades, it's okay. I don't want to, but it's okay for someone to say, I'm going to GC it myself. But once you get above 5 trades, then at that point, then, depending on what else you're doing in your life, you may consider bringing in a GC to be able to help you with that. Because, and what's nice about a GC is there is a subcontractor salute. Do you guys know what the subcontractor salute is?
Yeah.
Okay. Anyone who's done some renovating knows exactly that. It's like, oh no, that's the plumber's fault. No, that's the electrician's fault. No, that's the finished carpenter's fault. No, that's the flooring guy's fault. No, but when you have a GC, usually there's a way to kind of corral these guys or gals to work together a little bit better. And so I would encourage you guys that as you're working with some of these subcontractors, there's several ways that you can approach them. You can approach them as, this is our second project. Our first one didn't go very well. Our contractor died. You could share the victim story with them. And this is our next one. We're hoping it's going to work this time, but if it doesn't work, then we're going to be out of the business. Or you could say, I'm so excited to meet you because, listen, for my last contractor, this is what I say. I got to put his kids through college. Like my last contractor, when he first started working for us, he had a beat up F-150, then he had a fancy F-150, then he had new F-250, and then he went to the F-350, and there's really nowhere to go beyond that. Put his kids through college. It's like, that was a relationship. It was a partnership. And I would love to be able to put your kids through college too. So, how many of the people that you've worked with have you worked with for an extended period of time? Because we're looking really to build those long-term relationships. So that's the approach I would go to, as opposed to sharing any of the, and I'm not saying that you guys are showing up with a victim story, because you guys at all. So
That we put our last contractor in the grave.
Yeah.
that's funny here. That is funny here. Just don't say that at any contractor conventions or to your contractors. But yeah, that's funny. That's not funny. I know. I feel bad about saying that that's funny. But wow. Yeah. So and then I always so just another tip of advice when you're working with these new folks is always let them know about the next project. Because otherwise they're going to be looking at you as a one-off opportunity. If they're looking at you as a one-off opportunity, their flexibility in terms of working with you when, not if, but when there is an issue or when there is a surprise goes down dramatically if they think that you're one and done. But if you're showing them other properties, again, what are you doing? You're tapping into fantasy, you're tapping into excitement, you're tapping into this future, and you'll be able to work through issues as they come up much more easily. And that would be one of my recommendations for you guys as you're looking at other properties. And I'm so glad that you just you kind of dusted yourself off. I'm so glad that you switched strategies. I'm actually super impressed by that because a lot of people, they get very dug in into the one thing that they're doing and they can't adjust from that, and then then they end up in some type of trouble. And I'm also glad that financially that you guys were able to and I'm assuming you guys have refinanced it, or did you buy it for cash?
We bought it cash, and we're going to do a cash out refi.
Okay.
It's not
okay.
quite finished. We're hoping, by the end of May.
Okay. So the issue sometimes with a cash out refi, if you're financing it in less than 6 months, how much money does the lender want to give you? The lender wants to give you what you paid for the property, regardless of the repairs that you put into it. If you hold it for 6 months to a year, then the lender will give you an appraised value, which is really what you want, because my guess is you want not just your purchase price out, you also want your renovations out so that you can go and use that for the next project.
Right.
So as you're working with your lender, because you just bought it, you said in February, ask them, what are the requirements to be able to get the appraised value out of it. They also might want it rent stabilized, if you will, which is commonly a term for commercial property, but I'll use it in this case, which just means you've got a renter payment record, which is also super important in terms of getting that loan. And then, do you guys both work W-2 full-time jobs?
I do not.
You do or you do not?
I do not.
You do not. Do you?
Well, I actually work in mortgage, so.
You work in mortgage?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So are you working on the refinance for this property?
No, I moved here from Oklahoma, and
Okay.
I just now got my Texas license switched over.
Okay.
So I'm not sure yet how we're going to proceed with that. So.
Okay, so I was really hoping that one of you guys would tell me that you were employed, because as a lender that makes it just so much easier to be able to get a loan. But since you're not, that's okay. And then I would say there are a couple of for the next deal. If you don't want to go in all cash, there are a couple of mortgage companies that have what they might call like the Texas two-step, which is here's your rate or here's your loan for buying the property, renovating the property, and then we're going to two-step you into a longer-term loan. So that will save you a little bit on closing costs, so you're not doing two closings. So maybe look for a lender that can get a little bit more creative like that. I've found that ILS.cash, the letter I, the letter L, the letter S, Investor Loan Servicing, they have different programs like that to be able to help people. And then the other thing I'll say is, and this does not apply to you guys, but there is a saying, a fool and his money are soon parted, okay? And this is not you guys, but I will say that one of the things that I find when it comes to real estate investing is, how did you find this deal, first off?
It was wholesale.
As a wholesaler. Okay, so the two wholesaler rules of thumb is they always overestimate the ARV and they always underestimate the repairs, which lands you in a position where in many cases you're breaking even at best and in some cases losing money. So And I will say trust but verify. So always verify their numbers with someone who, so they're going to give you their numbers, they're going to show you their comps. Their comps are going to be the best cherry pick comps you've ever seen, which means they're going to come from May and June of 2022, the fever pitch. If you see any comps that have a multiple offers received and the agent remarks, just know that that comp is no longer a good comp today in today's market. But those are the comps that a lot of the wholesalers are using, because those are the best and highest comps that are out there, right? So, and then I will say, so there is a possibility in those cases for conflict of interest. So you're only buying the deal from them if you believe their reports on what the property is worth and their reports on what it's going to take to renovate the property, right? So that's the only way they're going to get to the finish line and get money. So you guys have to independently verify the comps and independently verify your the value of the renovation. I've always noticed that for wholesalers, they'll give you a make-ready renovation bid, but they'll give you the highest ARV that's ever existed in the entire neighborhood, which means that your renovation is going to be closer to here in terms of your price than it is going to be closer to here. So, and then probably my best piece of advice for any of you guys who are buying with cash, especially if you're new to this market and it's not like, oh, welcome to Texas from Oklahoma, we got all these people who are going to take advantage of you. But I would just say, just be careful. And one of the things that I would do is pass your deal by a hard, and I'll say air quotes, deal by a hard money lender, and say, hey, I'm buying this house for a fix and flip. Will you fund it for me? If your hard money lender says no, what have they just told you? They've told you don't have a 70% of ARV minus repairs deal. If they've told you yes, and somebody like you guys, I'm guessing they may say yes, I'll fund it for you. Don't think, okay, well, I got a good deal, because if their next sentence is, but you're going to have to bring $50,000 to the closing table, because what have they just told you? Your deal's not good, but you've got enough cash and or you've got a good enough credit score that we're going to go ahead and make you the loan, because we know that you got a place to go and find the money in case the deal goes wrong. So we're going to risk shift to you completely. So I'm still fine as a hard money lender because I still have the loan at 70% of ARV minus repairs. Now, even though your deal may not be the best deal, you'll be able to crawl your way out of it, and I still, as the lender, won't get hurt. So this goes for all of you guys that are in here. If you're buying with cash, run that deal by, thank you guys, thank you. If you're buying that deal with cash, run that deal by a hard money lender, just because they'll give you some of the best free coaching that you can possibly get as a real estate investor. But do know that there is a hard money lender, what I call the hard money lender decoder ring, which is if they say yes, but you have to bring all this extra money to the closing table, what they've told you is, I see you have a W-2 income and or a good credit score and or a lot of extra cash on hand, so I'm willing to take the risk, but only if you de-lever me, right? So put me in that 70% of ARV minus repairs position. So it's watching new investors come in with cash and is both super exciting as well as super terrifying for me, just because sometimes if you're believing what the wholesaler is selling, then that can just land you, and you're not independently verifying, that can land you into a fair amount of trouble. So on your next deal, I might suggest just kind of pass it through those level of eyes. And I'm sure, coming from, and ma'am, on the right, are you also from Oklahoma, or have you been here?
I was born and raised in New Orleans.
You born and raised in New Braunfels. Okay, fantastic. So that's good. You got probably a good local power team of people as well. So that's fantastic. But I was just going to say, the laws, are a little different here. And, even New Braunfels to San Antonio, some things are very different. And just in terms of city permitting too, and city inspections and what they'll allow you to do and what they won't allow you to do, and what you can get away with as well as what you cannot get away with. So I remember when I first started investing 20 years ago, I had this one saying, which is, I always get a permit. Every single time I do a renovation, I always get a permit, which means that I would try and not get a permit if I could. And at that time when we were investing, it was a little bit more the wild, wild west. Like now it's a little tougher to be able to do that. But before, the only time I would get a permit when I first started investing was when I was expanding outside of the footprint of the house, right? So I'm adding square footage. I'm always going to get a permit then. But if I'm just doing paint, carpet, replacing kitchen cabinets, countertops, redoing a bathroom, that sort of thing, I'm always going to use a licensed plumber, licensed electrician, all of those licensed folks. I'm going to try to keep the city out of it as much as possible, only because when you invite the city into your project, has anybody watched any of those vampire movies? What do you have to do when a vampire is at your door? There's only one way that they can come in, which is when what? You have to be invited. Okay, I'm so excited that there's one other vampire person in the room, so it makes me really happy that it's not just me, but you have to be invited. So, and when you invite them in, it's kind of hard to get them out, right? So with the city, when you invite them in, you may say, well, I'm just going to, redo the plumbing over here because I'm just going to, redo my kitchens and bathrooms. And they're going to say, yeah, that'd be wonderful. But hey, while we're here, we're just going to poke around a couple little places. And, oh, it looks like you need to upgrade your service. That'll be $2,500 to $5,000 on your electrical. You're like, electrical? I'm not doing any electrical. Yeah, you're going to be, redoing some GFCIs in the kitchen. So we're just going to, oh, and by the way, the insulation that's in the attic, it's like an R2, and we need to get you to an R32. So here's just the little extras that we're gonna add for you, right? So, but now just because the city's a little bit stricter, and they will red tag you, I do say every time I get a permit now, really, unless if I'm truly just doing paint and carpet, then no. But how many of our projects as real estate investors are just paint and carpet? That would be about the square root of 0 of them, right? So most of them are much more intense. And the reason why they are much more intense is those are the ones that we can get the best deals on, because those are the ones where there's more risk, or there's the ones where the seller might be a little bit more motivated. So thank you for allowing me to chime in there. I hope I didn't hurt your feelings, burst any bubbles, break up a friendship or anything like that. So that would make me sad. But I do love being able to share some of the tribal knowledge that we've learned over the years investing in real estate. In fact, I've got many of those tribal knowledge slides up here that I'd love to be able to share with you guys as we go through as well, including some of the different formulas that we use as real estate investors, just so you guys know what to expect in this market. And I will tell you, this market, we are in a very interesting time frame right now. And that is, how many of you guys have heard of this concept of the sandwich generation? Okay, what does that mean? None of you guys have heard of the sandwich generation. Some of you guys might be part of the sandwich generation, which effectively means that you're taking care of parents, right? And then you're also taking care of children. So in some cases, some folks have parents that are living longer, but their lifespan is longer, but their health span is poor. So you're spending more time, money, effort, energy, kind of taking care of them. And then on the other side of the equation, for those of us who have kiddos, when I was a kid, like I launched out of the house, like as soon as I turned 17, I moved out, and I was working when I was, 15. But kids these days, they seem like they don't want to launch from the house at all, because we've made it really super awesome and comfortable for them, right? So that kind of makes us this sandwich generation for a lot of people, taking care of parents as well as or grandparents and or taking care of children. So what I will tell you guys is that there's a sandwich generation that's actually happening right now for us as real estate investors. So we're getting, and in fact, there's extra layers of the sandwich, and we as real estate investors are in the middle. And what I'm talking about specifically here is we're getting squeezed by the sellers, because what price does the seller want? The seller doesn't want the price that the houses in the neighborhood sold for just a few months ago. They want the prices that the house would have sold for during the fever pitch times, which are May and June of 2022, right? We're not in that market anymore, and some of the markets have come down on prices. And as we get closer to May and June of 2022, we'll see some further price decreases versus where we were then. So we're being squeezed by sellers who want with that old price. We're also being squeezed by buyers who want what? What are buyers thinking? Well, since we're about to go into a recession, what? What are buyers thinking? Buyers thinking, okay, if we're going into a recession, then we want the price even lower. So we're being squeezed by a seller who wants higher. We're being squeezed by a buyer who wants lower. And then what's the mayonnaise and mustard that's in between? And some of you guys may be saying, mayonnaise and mustard? That's disgusting. I know. So we'll just say extra mustard in there. So what's the extra mustard in between? Our contractor price is going up. Labor's going up, supply prices are going up. So we're really being squeezed right now as real estate investors. So I will tell you now more than ever, we really have to adhere to what we call our real estate investor maximum allowable offer formula. I put that up just a few moments ago. Just want to do a quick pop quiz to see. You guys tell me, what is that? What's the real estate investor maximum allowable offer formula? Elijah, is that right? Yeah, 70% of ARV. Minus repairs. I think put you guys together, Anthony, is that right? Put Anthony and Elijah together, and then we have a full investor. Okay, so we use the real estate investor maximum allowable offer formula of 70% of the ARV minus repairs. So if the ARV is 300,000. Automatically off the top, we're taking $90,000, right? 70% times 300,000 is 210. And the property needs $60,000 in repairs, then we're taking that extra 60 off of our price, so we're offering $150,000. You guys follow that? 70% of ARV minus repairs. When the ARV is 300, the repairs are 60, means your offer is $150,000. Now, because we are in a sandwich generation, do we have to follow that offer exactly by the book? Yes. Yes. When we're not in a sandwich generation, meaning when buyers are, multiple offers above list price, same day that it was listed, sight unseen in some cases, right? Then we've got some opportunity to maybe stray away and maybe pay a little bit more. We are taking a risk just because we don't know what market we're going to be selling into. But in the market that we're in now, where we got this extra bonus, so I don't want to put mustard and mayo and ketchup into this sandwich because that sounds terrible, but the inflation and the higher interest rates is making it kind of taste a little terrible right now, right? So it's pulling some would-be buyers out of the market. So I will tell you, use that formula, and if you don't, be ready to downshift into different strategies, right? So if your fix and flip becomes a fix and flop, be ready to hold it, be ready to lease it, be ready to maybe even move into it. So sometimes we have a lot of what I'll call accidental landlords when markets change. So we had a ton of accidental landlords in the 2008, 9, and 10 timeframe because we were in a market where it was really hard to sell houses. And the time frame that we're in right now, houses were harder to sell towards the end of last year. In fact, we were seeing in some cases a 30% reduction in year-over-year sales. This year so far, we've done a little bit better, meaning we're seeing about a 15% or so reduction in overall sales, which is incredible, especially considering that we have a situation where we've doubled the interest rates. And is this screen blinking, guys? Are you guys watching the screen blink? So we're seeing some screen little blinkies here. So that's a bonus for today. Just want to make sure you guys are all paying attention. So and I'm excited to go through the next part of our presentation as we're going to get started with that now. We're going to go through the market update as well as